Hello everyone, welcome to Aardvark. I'm your host Michael Rugby. This is a section where we talk to people in the industry about their career, how they got there and some advice that they might like to give you. With me today is Antonela Pounder. She's the Director of Global Community of 505 Games. They're a big publisher ranging from AAA all the way down to smaller titles. Some of the biggest titles include Assetto Corsa, Death Stranding, Control, Ghost Runner and of course Terraria. Hello Antonela, thank you for joining me today.
Hi Michael, thanks for the opportunity. It's really nice to be here and to chat with you.
No problem at all, it's a pleasure to have you. So let's start then. Tell us some stuff about your role, being Director of Global Community at 505 and what a typical day looks like.
So my job's a lot of fun. So I oversee the global community management here at 505 Games and our portfolio of premium titles. We're a team of 8 now, I think, which is amazing. When I started here, it was basically just me. I'm also the voice of the 505 Global corporate channels, and I'm also leading the social strategy and community engagement on a couple of games as well. You know, I like to be doing the nitty-gritty as well as doing the team management stuff. So I look after Death Stranding for PC and Control. So yeah, every day is very, very different. If I was to go into detail on what, like, I guess a typical day entails, it'd be quite hard because again, yeah, it's always different. Emails, obviously. I like to do a bit of a social audit in the morning. So look over our channels. Are there any fires? Is there anything that we need to be aware of? Content creation, you know, planning, collaboration with my team members. Reporting is a big part of my role as well. And yeah, as I've just said, you know, team management and community management in general. A lot of my time is spent now talking with the development teams that we work with, as well as our brand managers, who effectively steer the ship when it comes to project management. The community role here is kind of split into 3 areas: the planning, the doing, and the reporting. You know, we're a team that gets involved in everything. So we create the channels, we work on the channels, we engage with the community, we create the content for our community, or we work in collaboration with our creative services team. We do all sorts, but yeah, every day is very, very different, but hopefully that gives you a nice overview on, I guess, what my role entails.
Yeah, fantastic. It sounds like you've got a lot to be managing, but it sounds really really exciting. Obviously, global brand management with 505 sounds a lot of responsibility, but I imagine very rewarding too. If you wouldn't mind telling us a bit more about your career background before 505, then how did you get to where you are today?
I graduated university in 2012, so yeah, 10 years ago this year. It's slightly terrifying. And during my final year of uni, I thought to myself, hang on a minute, if I don't get any kind of work experience, I'm probably going to struggle getting into this industry. So I went to a gaming event and Team 17 were there, and I approached them. I had a little chat with them and I was like, look, can you please offer me some work experience? I really need to get my foot in the door somehow. And they were like, no, we don't do anything like that. And I practically begged. And I got chatting to I think it was I can't remember. It was one of the very senior people within the team. And he was like, look, drop us your CV. Here's my business card. We'll see what we can do. And I ended up landing 2 weeks of QA work experience with the team there, which was amazing. That was in my final year, and I genuinely believe that helped me land my first full-time role in the industry, which I got literally just as I left uni. And that was at Ubisoft Reflections up in Newcastle. So I worked there in their QA department. I landed a job there in as a QA technician working on Just Dance. That's as fun as you can imagine. A lot of dancing. And following that, I then got promoted into a development tester role, working on Watch Dogs. And that was, you know, super exciting. I was responsible for the online races and the functionality of those. And it was actually during this time I kind of was trying to work out what I wanted to do long term, because as much as I enjoyed QA, it certainly wasn't what I wanted to do in the long run. From a very young age, the plan was always to become a 3D artist or an animator, either in animation or games. And an opportunity actually came up at Ubisoft where it was a vehicle artist role, and I was like, okay, here's my opportunity to try and get into this field that I've been working towards for the last 18 years. And I'd started going through the interview process and I really hated it, and it was the most eye-opening thing and a little bit disheartening as well, because I was like, oh my God, I've worked all these years to get to this point. What do I do? On the side, I was a big fan of social media and engaging with communities, with people who've got similar interests to me. And that was picked up internally by the communications manager, who gave me the opportunity to work as a community developer on top of my kind of full-time job, I guess. Like, do you want some experience looking after the company's social channels? And it was at that point I realized actually community management is really what I should be doing. A full-time role in that field didn't come up at Ubisoft, so when my time at Ubisoft ended, I landed a role at Natural Motion in community management, and that was, you know, probably one of the most important roles that I ever secured, because I guess it gave me a lot of comfort in knowing that yes, this is what I should be doing. So I spent quite a lot of time at Natural Motion, and then ultimately ended up at 505 in a community management role again, and built it up from there. So I've been a little bit all over the place. I've packed my bags and moved many times, but yeah, I had some good life experience along the way.
I definitely think it's nice to hear stories of people that change fields or to an extent, or change departments and stuff. I think it's really, you know, especially for a lot of people that listen to the podcast who are kind of junior members or graduates or people just about to graduate, sort of looking for the first roles or first breakthroughs into the industry. I think your story really represents the kind of difficulties that come along with it quite comprehensively. So obviously at the beginning, trying to land a role outside of uni and just trying to get anywhere that you can with sort of like work experience and stuff, and then to realise that you might have been pursuing the wrong field and to go into something else, I think is really an interesting story, because a lot of people just think, well, I've worked, you know, I myself have done that before in the past, where you work so much towards something and you kind of don't want to quit because you've just done so much work towards it. So I think it's really good that you've managed to do that. But obviously now you're at 505, you've been there 6 years, is that right?
Yeah, just over 6 years now.
Yeah, congratulations, first of all. But obviously you've made your way up the ranks there, beginning as a brand community manager to senior, now director of global community. How was that progression for you, and what were the skills that you think you needed to advance so quickly throughout the company?
So I don't want to say it was easy, because it certainly was. It certainly wasn't. I'm not the most confident person in the world, and imposter syndrome is real. I think a lot of it comes down to working somewhere where I feel empowered to be able to speak out about my career ambitions. And 505 does a good job at helping to build careers where it can. I found it less stressful than you might think, just because I actually did take things at my own pace. I made it clear internally what my career ambitions were, and I just kind of took it from there. I got advice from those around me. I went out of my way to try and develop the understanding and the skills I needed to get where I wanted to be. I'm very loyal to 505. I think loyalty is important, and I feel like that might have helped me somewhat. 505 have invested in me while I invested in them. And yeah, I think, you know, going back when it was clear that community management was a field that I really wanted to specialize in, I just took up opportunities that helped me get where I am now. So this was through like maybe online courses, in real life training sessions. Again, learning from those around me. My brain's like a sponge, and I just try and absorb as much knowledge as possible. And I think that's certainly helped get me where I am today.
No, that sounds great. And obviously when I was sort of like doing a bit of background research into yourself and 505, I noticed that on LinkedIn that it was before my time, of course, but Aardvark Swift placed you. I say that before my time as if I wasn't alive. I mean, before my time at Aardvark Swift, should I say. But yeah, the Aardvark Swift placed you at 505. Obviously, I didn't know the process then, but what was the recruitment process like at that time through Aardvark Swift, and what was that like for you as a candidate going through that?
Painless. It was easy, it was straightforward, and I will always cheerlead you guys from behind the scenes, because it was, I'll be honest, it was a really, really, really rubbish time for me personally. It was back in 2015, and my confidence had taken like a massive knock that year due to multiple job losses. I started looking for roles actually outside the industry because I questioned whether I had a place in games still. It was pretty rubbish. I was approached actually by somebody on LinkedIn who were like, hey, there's a role going at 505 Games in Milton Keynes, community management. Do you know anyone that's interested? I was like, yeah, me. Tell me more. And yeah, I've never wanted to land a job so badly in my life. The interview stages were challenging, of course, but in a good way. They allowed me to highlight my strengths, and also identify some of my weaknesses as well, which isn't a bad thing. Aardvark dealt with, I guess, a lot of the heavy lifting, which at that point in my life was so important because I needed to look after myself whilst trying to look for a job. And looking for a job when you don't have a job is one of the most stressful things in the world. So yeah, Aardvark really kind of enabled me to look after myself. So then, and they helped me, I guess, land this role that has turned out to be one of the best career decisions of my life. My life at 505 started just over 6 years ago now, and I have absolutely no intention of going anywhere else because I'm genuinely happy here, and I'm very grateful to Aardvark for, I guess, presenting me not only with this opportunity, but helping me be able to showcase the best part of me during these interview phases because, again, they allowed me to be able to look after myself and they dealt with all the admin stuff that it's just extra stress that you don't need when you're already going through a rubbish time. So they made the whole process very, very painless, easy, and very straightforward.
That's great. It's great to hear and to know that you had such a good experience with Aardvark Swift. So yeah, let's take things back way before. Obviously, we've talked about your uni experience and your time going through Team 17 and Natural Motion, and then obviously 505. What would you say sort of influenced you to become interested in the industry? Do you have any sort of key standout inspirations at all?
Oh yeah, I mean, my love of games started when I was like 7 years old, 8 years old maybe. My parents bought me a PS1. Crash Bandicoot and Spyro were my life, and playing those games growing up inspired me hugely. And when I was like, oh my God, like people make a living through working on games and making games. Yeah, for a very young age, I was, heavily inspired because of these games like Spyro and Crash. Yeah, to one day get into this industry. Um, I feel very lucky actually because I feel like I got into the industry 10 years ago, but I think it's getting harder and it is getting harder and harder now. There's so much competition, but I think now candidates are in a really good place where there is social media. You can reach out to people a lot easier compared to like when I was younger, I guess. But yeah, it's growing up, I guess it was the games that I was playing that heavily inspired me. And then I went to college and did art related courses and then university and then yeah, here I am.
Yeah, I was going to say some great picks there. My first game was Wrath of Cortex on the original Xbox.
Oh my
Uh,
God, yes.
yeah, such a good game. So yeah, can't fault you on those picks there. But yeah, now you're at 505, and outside your achievements in your role, you've also been nominated for some pretty good awards like Game Her and Game Dev Heroes. I imagine it's really good to sort of not only have internally, as you said, you've got a supportive kind of environment around you, but to have those achievements acknowledged by your peers in the industry. I imagine that's such a good feeling.
Yeah, it is, but imposter syndrome is real, and it's hard
Right.
to believe you deserve those things. I am immensely grateful and humbled, and the honest truth is, I don't feel worthy of those accolades. I'm heavily inspired by people who are in a similar role to me, who I feel like, no, I don't know why you're giving it to me. You need to give it to those guys because they're so much better than I am. But of course, they're really nice to have, and it's nice to be able to talk to your parents about this sort of thing. Like a few years ago when the MCV 30 under 30 thing happened, my dad didn't know anything about games except I know that my daughter loves them and she loves working in games. And I sent him a copy of MCV and I was like, Dad, I'm in this thing and I don't expect you to understand it. And bless him, he was so proud. He went to his local pub and he just basically started showing people my little picture and he's like, look, my daughter's in here. And they were like, but what does this mean? He's like, I don't know, but she's in here. And, things like that it is quite nice. But yeah, I just kind of, when people mention it, I just get a little bit awkward and just start, yeah, awkwardly waving my arms about and just go, eh. But no, I am immensely grateful and humbled, of course.
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, like you said, imposter syndrome's real, but you've always got to take someone must think you're doing a good job somewhere, so always stuff to bear in mind. But yeah, you're also a patron of Safe in Our World. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about that as well?
Yeah, so this really kicked off in 2020, which I think was just a very difficult year for everyone in their own ways. And Safe in Our World really came to my attention, yeah, in 2020. They approached 505 actually and asked if we wanted to be an official partner, and our president was very open to that, and we became a partner to Safe in Our World, who are an amazing video game mental wellbeing charity who want to improve, mental well-being within the workplace and all that. And yeah, we got chatting separately, and they asked if I wanted to become an ambassador for them, of which I absolutely, I took up that opportunity. They helped me a lot, and I'm a firm believer in a positive work culture, and if I can play a part in improving that, not for 505 as such, but as for the industry as a whole, then I absolutely want to do that. So yeah, I work quite closely with them, and yeah, it's nice to be part of such a positive initiative. One of which 505 can also get involved with, as well as me as an individual. Um, it means I help. Sometimes I'll write articles for them about my own experience or things that have helped me. Um, I've taken part in like podcasts with them. I'm kind of the one who bridges the gap between 505 and Safe in Our World, and ensure that we can keep working together and do cool stuff together. Most recently, actually, you might have seen that Safe in Our World did they're running a community management course, which is designed to help empower community managers if they ever find themselves in a situation where a player comes to them for help or they need help themselves. So we ensured that our global community management team all took part in that, and all of them found it super useful. So yeah, it's stuff like that, and this all kind of kicked off from 2020, which yeah, again was an awful year for many of us.
Yeah, no, I think that's really crucial. It's really good to hear people that are advocating and sort of champion that kind of thing, and just bringing attention to it. Like you said, 2020 awful year for people and the mental health. So for people to just know that there's these resources that you're developing, and there's people there for the people industry wise as well is crucial. So yeah, really good work there, I think. So we've gone through quite a bit, almost quite comprehensively, your background in the industry and all the things that you've done so far. What is some advice that you'd give to perhaps graduate candidates or people just starting out in the industry, particularly in sort of maybe the community management area, or even some of the QA stuff that you were talking about? Is there any advice that you'd give for people like that?
I mean, it's going to sound super obvious, but networking is so important prior to landing that first role, whether it's in community management or something else. I, my advice to anyone is to talk to industry professionals online, speak to people at events when they become a thing again. Don't be afraid to ask questions. We don't bite. We've all been in that situation ourselves before. And I think it's really important for people to be proactive on their journey. The opportunities won't just land on their lap. They need to go out and look for them. Look for if talking about communities specifically, looking for those freelance opportunities, get involved in online communities, look for look for opportunities to moderate spaces, whether that's Discord servers or forums, whatever. And I'd say look also to build up some experience in a consumer facing role if they haven't got that already. I used to work, before I started off in the industry, I worked in retail at Game for many years, and the number of transferable skills you get from working in a role like that, it's huge. And a lot of those skills now I still apply in my day to day now. I'd say if you're a college or university and see community management as something you want to aim towards in the future, do what I did, look for opportunities to secure that work experience, even if it's not in the field you want to work in long time, and even if it's only for like a couple of weeks, the difference it'll make is significant. And that's, basically how I got my break in the industry, and it gave me an edge against other people who I guess were walking out with a degree but hadn't had that industry experience. Grab any opportunity that comes with both hands. Yeah, it's stressful. It's super daunting as well. I found it really daunting. But I promise you, it absolutely will be worth it. And again, I've touched on this already, but don't be afraid to explore different roles within games. My journey started in QA. I wanted to be a 3D artist. I now head up a community management team. And on reflection, I'm grateful that this happened, because ultimately I got where I wanted to be at the end of it.
Some really good advice there, and I would also be interested to know. So obviously that's for people starting out and stuff. Looking back on your own journey, now that you know all you know, is there anything that you would do differently, or you'd say to past you, as a bit of advice for now?
Yeah, again, I know I've touched upon this, but I wish I knew that it was okay and highly possible that you'll change direction in terms of your career. I think one of the problems we have as a society, and well, I don't know if it's the case now, but certainly when I was younger, from like your primary school days, you're always asked, like, what do you want to be when you're older? And it's almost like you're forced into a direction from a really young age. I think it is important to know where you want to go in life. But I feel like, certainly from where I'm standing, like I felt like from a young age, it was like, oh, games and animation is my thing. Therefore, I must go down this route. And I kind of forced myself down that route to a point where I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. So I think we need to be kinder to ourselves and allow ourselves to move in a different direction, if we think that's the right thing to do. I'm grateful that an opportunity came up that, in my eyes at the time, was a dream role, where ultimately it just kind of fell through because it kind of really helped to make me realize what I did want to do long term. So I would just say, yeah, be kind to yourself. Don't be afraid to change direction, because ultimately you'll get where you need to be.
With every opportunity that maybe originally looks like it's fell through or not how you turned out to be, I think what you touched on at the end is that there's always something to learn from that, and whether even if it's an opportunity that didn't work out for you, it in turn opens another opportunity. I know that's advice that gets thrown around in different sentiments or whatever, but I think that's practical, real world experience that's really a testament to that too. If you didn't go into the industry, what do you think you'd be doing now? What role would you be doing?
It was inside games. I'd probably still be forcing myself into that 3D artist role. However, outside of games, I'm a huge motorsport fan. I'm a massive Formula One fan, huge. And it was actually my love of engaging with motorsport fans on social that caught the attention of the communications manager at Ubisoft years ago, which is she was like, hey, we see what you do on social media. Do you want to do this stuff here for us? And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. If that's an opportunity that I can grab with both hands, and it was. So yeah, I'd say probably outside of games, I'd probably be working in a similar field, but maybe in motorsport. But yeah, I have no intention of doing that because I can't actually imagine not working in games anymore.
No, that sounds great, and I think you've almost got that overlap with your love of games and and motorsport to an extent with Assetto Corsa as well.
Absolutely.
I don't know if Assetto Corsa is a highlight for you, but I would be interested to know what is the best project you've worked on in your career so far.
Oh my God, I shouldn't have favorites, none whatsoever. But if you kind of force me to come out with an answer and tell me you have to pick one, um, I am going to say Death Stranding, more for personal reasons. I became heavily involved in that project at the end of 2019, and 2020 was the year that I invested so much time and energy into that project. Again, that was a super rough year for us. But working on that project with, the fabulous team at Kojima Productions, I love them to bits. It really kept my mind active, and the community behind that game is just something else. It's one of the most supportive and positive communities I've ever worked with. And I'm just, super excited that Director's Cut is coming because we can just keep working with that community. And I played the game through the original Death Stranding on PS4 at the start of 2020, and it was one of those games where I thought I'd become a fan, but not to the extent that I did become. Like, yeah, it had a massive impact on me as a gamer. So to work on that with, again, the immensely talented team over at Kojima Productions is an honor, and yeah, something I'll never forget.
And what would you say is your career highlight then? Something that you've done personally, maybe, or not necessarily a project that you've worked on?
Actually, it's linked to, I guess, to your previous question. We ran a series of AMA sessions for Death Stranding with the likes of Yoji Shinkawa and Tommy L. Jenkins, and we also did a similar thing for Control with Courtney Hope, who plays Jesse Faden. All this was done remotely during lockdown. Being on a call with these people is very surreal, and I'm just immensely proud and grateful to have led the social strategy and the community engagement for these big AAA games. It's a huge career highlight. I think if someone would have told my younger self that I'd be one day credited on a Hideo Kojima game, I probably would have laughed and said that that's never going to happen. And I still pinch myself now, and I don't take these moments for granted.
No, that's all fantastic, Antonella. Thank you for telling me a bit more about yourself and your background. But yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap things up there now. So thank you very much for joining me today.
No, thank you, Michael. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. I've been your host, Michael Rubber, with Antonella from 505, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.